Hello all. So in this video we are going to see how to create an object using OOP concepts. So here we are going to use class keyword and we will create our own object and methods associated with it. Okay, let's jump in. Let's start with our own object. Maybe we can define a string str1 equal to hello. So here str1 is considered as our object, and if we type str1 dot and tab, here you can see these are the list of methods associated with the string object. So this is not only for strings, our well-known objects like list, set, dictionary, everything will have some methods or attributes associated with it. So these are built-in objects, and let's see how to use our class keyword to create an user-defined object. We are going to create a user-defined object using the class keyword. So normally class is like a constructor. So it will be like a base for the object we are creating. Once the object is defined using class keyword, we can then create instances of our own object. So instance is a specific object which is created from a particular class. So let's create our new class. For example, I'm naming it as new class. So here you can see I'm following camel casing because I'm just capitalizing the separate words. So now you can see I just created a class, the name new class, open and close brackets like functions or procedures, and then semicolon and hit tab. So here I'm not defining anything, so I'm just using the pass keyword so that it is understandable for the interpreter that I will define something here. So now our class has been created. Let's see how to create an instance of our class. So I'm creating a variable a and I'm not passing any value. So here you can see when I'm typing, just listing in our tab window. So I just hit tab. So here you can see we have created a new instance for our class, which is defined here. So if you run this, you won't get any errors. So what if you made out without using the pass keyword? So if I run this, here you can see expected in indented block. So it is expected something has to be here. So I'm just keeping it as fillers. So if you want to check the type of your instance A, so here I have printed my instance. So if I run it, so it will return a result like this. So this will be your class name of which you have instantiated an object. So this underscore underscore main is just showing this particular instance of new class is just connected with your main script. So this is our simple class, and it is not useful because it doesn't have any attribute. So I'm just deleting this pass. Just zoom it a bit. So now if you hit enter, then you will get the intended block. So yes, like function definition, we are going to use the def keyword, and we have to use underscore underscore unit underscore underscore open and close bracket. So inside a class, it will be called as method. So this is a special method called init method. So it will be called upon whenever you create a new instance of the class. And we will always start with the self keyword so that it is always connected with the instance of the class created. Here you can pass on how many attributes you want in this object. For further understanding, I'm just changing into book. I will capitalize the first letter. So like book will have the characteristics such as number of pages, color, price. Consider these are the object of the book. So I'm just adding an attribute pages here. So it will be characteristic of a book. And then I have to use a semicolon to get the intended block for this method. So consider this is our class with just a method. So if I run it, so here I have to change our class to book so that a new instance will be created in this class book. So here I'm just assigning it again, like using the self keyword, self dot pages equal to pages. So initially this will look strange. So let's see what happens with our class object. And now I'm just creating a new instance of our class book. So this will be our science book. Now I will type book here so that an instance will be created. So now you can see the spider ID is showing that it needs a parameter pages to be passed to this class. But if I run this, you can see it's throwing an error. It's missing one required positional argument, which is pages. So Python is showing like whenever you create an instance of the class book, it needs a parameter pages to be passed to it. So consider I'm just passing 400 here. I'm just running. You can see there is no error because this 400 is the parameter that is passed to this class and it is assigned to this attribute. Now I can say like pages equal to 400. So now if I run this, you will see no error. And if I print my instance signs, here it's showing the address at some random memory location in the CPU. So we are not using the object actually, we are just assigning to it. So now if you want to see the type of the object, now if I run this, you can see this is of main and the name of the object is book. So now if I want to get the actual value of this instance, we use science dot. When you hit tab, you can get the methods associated with the object. So here I'm having pages. I'm just hitting enter. If I run this now, it will return 400. So here you can see we have created an object called book and a method associated with it, and we are making an argument pages which is linked with our book. And in the sixth line, you can see we are just creating an instance of the object and we are passing the parameter as 400. That is the pages. So in the seventh line, we are just trying to print by accessing the instance and calling the method pages. So it's returning 400. So let's break up each by each. And init is the constructor of the class. Here you can see init, which is the constructor of the class, which is going to be called whenever you create an instance of the object. And self is the keyword, which is referring to the object itself. In other programming languages, this linking will be explicit, but in Python, we're just using the self keyword so that while you are writing code, when other programmers trying to read your code, they won't find it fishy. So we are just sticking with the self keyword in Python. Here you can see pages is defined 3 times here. Here we are passing, here defining, and again we are assigning pages here. So when you create an instance of the class book, and Python will going to call this init method and self to represent the instance of the class, and it will expect you to pass an argument pages. So here you can see 3 names called pages. So the first one is which is linked with the init and self keyword, and what it does is it will request you to pass the number of pages. So whenever you create a new instance of this class book, it will request you to pass the pages here. So here again I am taking the argument and assign it to an attribute here. Example, I'm just renaming this variable name here to page. So here you can see the pages you are getting from instance of the class, and again you are assigning it to the class book using the self keyword. So pages is the parameter name we chose for an argument. So here it can be anything. So now if you run this, you can see pages is the parameter name for the argument and page is assigning to an attribute name. But conventionally we will use both attribute and parameter name as same so that we won't be get confused here. By concluding, you can see I'm just taking an argument and assigning to an attribute here. So you have to pass the value using an argument and reference it using the attribute. So this is the argument we are passing in and this is the attribute name we are assigning to it, and we will call it whenever the object is created. You can also write it as attribute name. So now if I run this, you can see object has no attribute pages because the pages which is the argument we are passing which is assigned to the attribute name. So if you want to reference it, you just need to use the same name. You can see attribute name. So now if you run, you can see the result here. So normally this is not necessary. We can use both the attribute name and the argument the same name so that we won't get confused. So right now our book has only one attribute which is pages, and we can give the different attributes as color, author. So we have created our 3 arguments here. Now we have to assign the attributes. I'm using the self keyword and an attribute name which will be same as this. So here you can see we have used the same name as arguments to our attribute name, And while creating an instance of the object book, we have to give all the parameters of the arguments. So here we have three arguments: pages and color. Color I'm giving as yellow using the comma separator, author unknown. So now you have got an idea, like every attribute you are going to pass in need not to be an integer or a string. It can be anything: list, dictionary, all the Python supported objects. So now we have created an instance of the object book science. So this new instance will have different attributes. So I'm just deleting pages. If you type science and hit dot, so now you will get options: author, color, pages. So these are the attributes associated with the class book. So if you want to see the color of the book, hit color and run. You can see the color of the book is yellow. So these are like the characteristics of the object book. So our instance science book will have these characteristics which we defined earlier. So if you want to see the author, since Python is very much flexible, you have to create a documentation so that other people working on your code will get to understand what are the values which needs to pass it to each attribute. For example, pages, it requires integer, not floating point, and color it should be a string, and author it should be a string. Like that, you have to define it over here. Like make a comment or something. Pages is expected as int. So like that, you can make a comment in your class which you have defined, so that other people looking in your code will feel very much helpful when they look into your code. So now we have created a simple class with our own attribute. We have to use the class keyword for creating a class, and so here we are defining our attribute, which will be the characteristic of the class. And we are using the self keyword to link the instance of the class with the object book. And here we are expecting three parameters: pages, color, and author. And here we are assigning it using self keyword to the attribute name, so that every instance will be linked to this object book using the attribute name. After defining the class, you can create instance of your class by assigning to a variable and passing the parameter values. If you want to check each parameter, so after you give your instance, you can check what are the values associated with each parameter. So that's it for this tutorial. We have discussed about class and attributes. In the next tutorial, we will discuss about methods. Thanks for watching.